Good to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, my name is Chris Carlson. I'm here with my unrelated friend here, Cameron Carlson. No relation, but we both love real estate, and we're here to help answer some questions that you guys may have about real estate investing, specifically on whether or not long-term rentals are better than short-term rentals. It's a common question that we get from clients, and a popular topic for those that are looking to consider purchasing an investment property. Whether or not should they make that first investment into either a long-term rental or a short-term, and weighing those pros and cons alongside each other. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're aiming this webinar at those folks that are truly seeking an answer to whether or not they should buy a long-term or a short-term rental. Frankly, over the years of our experience, we found that long-term management offers substantially more benefits than short-term rentals, and our firm specializes in long-term rental management and buy and hold investment properties. Here we go. On to the next slide here. For those of you that are maybe not too familiar with Marshall Reddick, we offer a one-stop shop for real estate investors. I'm trying to answer that question of, how do I have everything with one brokerage and one shop on my next investment purchase? So we have our brokerage department where we've got in-house realtors in each of the markets that we're based in across 5 different states. There are boots on the ground agents that specialize in leasing, acquisition, disposition, 1031. They're the local experts in those individual markets to help our clients identify great opportunities for real estate investments. A lot of those are off market or partnerships that we have with flippers or developers or wholesalers. So we've got a lot of transactional experience in the investment sphere. Out of the 600 transactions that we did last year, roughly 500 of those were strictly for investors. Additionally, if we answer that question of what do you do after you identify that property, I think for those of you that have some investment experience, you probably know maybe 10% of the work is identifying the market, identifying the realtor, negotiating the deal, getting financing. The other 90% is the operation of the asset. It's lease enforcement, it's finding the tenant and optimizing the income that you receive by reducing vacancy and reducing your maintenance. And that's how we've designed our property management. Cameron here is a specialist in overseeing our property management department, and he's going to weigh in on some of the benefits of using a property manager once you do identify an investment property, how we can best service our clients through property management. Second or thirdly, I should say, private lending is an essential component of our business. We provide loans to borrowers looking to invest in non-owner occupied residential real estate. Our clients that borrow from us are fix and flippers, developers, and buy and hold investors. On the flip side of that, you can invest in our mortgage fund. You can be a lender with Marshall Reddick, and we pool capital and loan out those funds and lend it in the residential real estate investment space. You'll earn a quarterly return of 8.5%. Historically, I should say, that's a return on our mortgage fund. It's a very passive, very low risk investment vehicle. So instead of receiving a rent check from a tenant, you get to collect interest from a mortgage payment. It's a great way of putting that. As I mentioned, we're in a multitude of states. We've got physical presence in offices in Orange County, Los Angeles, New Braunfels, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Cape Coral, Nashville, and Clarksville. We've identified those markets with specific intention because we believe those markets offer incredible value for our investors. They offer cash flow or appreciation depending on what our clients are looking to achieve. And our brick and mortar offices are located in these cities. I love showing this slide. This is our team here, the folks that make up Marshall Reddick. Each one of these people cares deeply about real estate investing and protecting their clients' assets, whether or not they're in property management, accounting, software, leasing, realtors, and they all kind of have a vested interest in maintaining your property and squeezing every last dollar out of your assets. Many of our employees are investors themselves. Once again, my name is Chris Carlson. I'm a licensed realtor. I've been a licensed broker since 2013. I've had my license in multiple states. I got into real estate after working for my dad in construction and realizing I didn't want anything to do with swinging a hammer. I'd rather hang out with people and make transactions happen. So for the last 10 years, I've done well over 100 sales transactions at this point. Too many leasing transactions to count. I've worked for small, medium, and large firms like Redfin on their acquisitions team, flipping homes through multiple states, and have closed transactions in those states. I've done 1031, multifamily value add, renovation, project management, and currently I'm invested in the mortgage fund. I just believe it's a really wonderful spot to be if you're looking for cash flow. But I'd love to introduce my partner here, Cameron. He's a fantastic individual and loves to just sit down and give his time to clients. I understand their needs and work through what they're hoping to accomplish. So without further ado, here's my brother from another mother.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for the introduction here. And Chris will give you a way to contact him at the end. If you have any more questions on a follow-up consultation, he's really a great resource as well. And a little bit about me is I'm also a licensed realtor. I got my bachelor's in business admin at Vanguard University here in Southern California. I've had a background in accounting, private lending. In private lending, I was a loan underwriter. And I've also had some experience with property management, specifically here at Marshall Reddick. And that's kind of where I got a little bit of my title here as a representative of our property management. So it's been cool to be able to be a part of the team and then kind of oversee the team and just help our owners understand what we do here. Also, I've done real estate transactions in 7 states. And like Chris, I am a mortgage fund investor. I like the passivity of the investment, and that's why I choose to invest in it. So diving into our topic today, let's kind of talk about management philosophy in general. So first and foremost, we believe that it's a partnership, right? We believe that property managers should only make money when the landlord makes money. And what we mean by that is we charge a percentage of the monthly rent. So management companies should charge a percentage of the monthly rent. So when you make money, when you collect rent, the management company should collect their management fee. And on the flip side, when the property is vacant, there shouldn't be any management fee collected. And that's where we never make money when the landlord loses money. On top of that too, and we'll talk more about it later, is when a management company is charging for maintenance. So when you're losing money and spending money on maintenance, the management company shouldn't profit. So that's kind of a good basis of how a company should judge the partnership. Second is trust is so important. How transparent is your company? If you take a look for us, you can go on marshallreddick.com/management. It's extremely easy to find our management fees. We don't hide anything, and we don't make it difficult to get to. It's really just right there on our website, and I would encourage you to look at the same on any other companies. Also take a look at reviews. It's important to understand, is a company lying to you? Are they hiding anything? Transparency and trust is important because, as Chris mentioned, you do all the work to get your property, and now the next 90% is really with that relationship you have in property management. And then last is, what is the mindset of the management company, right? We believe that your investment is an investment vehicle, and a lot of our staff members either own investment property or aspire to own investment property. And that really gives us a good perspective of how our philosophy is played out into your management on a day-to-day basis. So with our topic here, long-term rentals versus short-term rentals, let's just take a look at 12 reasons why we're looking at long-term rentals are better than short-term rentals. First and foremost is the tenants bring all the furniture in a long-term rental. So when we say LTR, we're referring to long-term rental, and STR refers to short-term rental. So if you see that on any of our slides, that gives you an idea of what those two mean. And so when you have a property for long-term rental, you usually buy them unfurnished, and you don't need to furnish because tenants want to bring their furniture. And when tenants bring their furniture, it saves you the expense of having to buy it. On the flip side, if you're looking to do a short-term rental, you're going to have to supply the furniture for the tenants. And this is going to cost a pretty penny, and it's going to be an upfront cost that you'll have to absorb. And usually that could be anywhere between $20,000 to $40,000. And then you have to also upkeep that furniture. So in 5 to 10 years, as furniture wears down and you need to replace things, there's still another cost that you have to factor in there. Something else is in a long-term rental, tenants pay all of the utilities. And so when tenants are paying the utilities, you as the owner aren't responsible for that. And it's an expense that the tenants cover on your behalf. On a short-term rental, you pay for the internet, you pay for the water, the gas, and the tenants are just staying there while you're paying for all of those expenses. So we actually don't even allow tenants to move in to our properties until after they have turned utilities on in their name. And something else too is there's no real way to regulate how much gas or water is being used on a short-term rental. Whereas with the tenants, it doesn't matter because they're paying for it themselves. And then let's dive into number 3 here. Let's talk about the consistency in the demand and income, right? So it's really up and down when you're looking at short-term rentals. You might have a hot season in the summer if you have a beach rental, or you might have a hot season in the winter if you have a winter rental. And that's something that we have to factor into account because the prices of your rent might vary up and down. So you're not entirely sure how much money am I going to get this month? How many people are going to rent my home this month? When you're looking at a long-term rental, it's the same every month. So a tenant's going to sign about a 12-month contract, and that's the standard for long-term rentals. And you know for 12 months, you're going to collect the same amount of rent every single month on the same day every single month. It takes away that stress and that worry. You know exactly what your income is going to be, so it's easy to compare that to your expenses. And that's why when you're looking at purchasing an investment, it's hard to really gauge the income and expenses on a short term as opposed to a long term where you know it's very fixed and set. And then number 4, we're going to take a look at just the cost of time, right? So when you're doing a short-term rental, it's not passive. It's almost like a full-time job. You've got to be responding constantly. You've got to be doing regular maintenance on it. You got to be checking in. You got to be making sure people leave you reviews. It's just a really back and forth, and you're always checking your phone and hoping that's going to get rented. When you're doing a long-term investment, especially when you have a management company, you don't really talk to anybody, right? Your hope is that the less you hear from the management company, the better job they're doing. Maybe you have a couple of maintenance requests and you'll get some bids that you have to approve, but you don't talk to the tenants. The management company keeps that level of privacy. There's no direct communication. You don't have to worry about an emergency at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. It's really hands off, and it makes it easier for you to focus on whatever you want to put your time towards, whether that be your income or your job or other investments or whatever that is. And so I want to take a look at this chart here. So this here is a chart of the revenue decrease in short-term rentals as of May 2022 to May of 2023. And these statistics are showing a lot of hot markets and the decline in the short-term rental market. I know that there was a time where it was hotter, a lot of people were traveling, and as that market fades, so does the short-term rental market. It's very volatile, and so it's something that we have to factor into account when you're thinking of, is this going to be a consistent income for the next 5 to 10 years? So moving forward, let's take a look at just the amount of traction your home's going to have on a yearly basis. When you have a long-term rental, you're going to have one set of tenants. They sign a 12-month lease agreement, and on average, they might have maybe 20 people in the home a year. You might have tenants that don't have too many people. You might have tenants that have guests over for family events or large occasions. Whereas when you have a short-term rental, you could have maybe up to 300 different people in your home all year. Everyone's putting wear and tear on the home, and so it's just a lot of different people and different traction, and they don't know your home, and it's just sometimes can create more of that maintenance side. And so that's something we have to factor in, because maintenance plays a big role in your investment. Also, there's a lot more liability in short-term rentals, and kind of piggybacks off of that last subject. But everybody's going to come into your home and they're going to wonder, how does this work? How does this turn on? Does this door supposed to open? They're going to break the door, bulge it open, or whatever that looks like. They don't know the home. They're not familiar that you have to flip this switch on before you turn on the water here, or the heater's not going to come on. If someone's living there for a year, they're going to get familiar with it. They're going to understand, and they're going to want to take care of it because they're going to be there constantly, as opposed to someone just going into a hotel room, using it as a hotel room for the night, and then leaving and not really caring what condition it is, other than the fact they don't want to be charged for it. So that's another point. And then number 7 is, it's very common, you might hear this if some of you have stayed at Airbnb, your neighbors might be upset with you. Right? They might have noise complaints, or they might be frustrated that there's always a bachelor party or a group of people that's just really loud at past quiet hours, and it really upsets your neighbors, and that's something that you don't really want to do. Something else too is, when you're doing a long-term rental, there's a lot more accountability for the tenants. And what I mean by that is, they're signing a physical contract, and they're bound to that contract for the time the contract is set. So whether that be a 12-month contract or more, they have to uphold that contract. They can't violate the lease, or that's a violation. And you have to realize, when you're doing short-term rentals, there is no contract in place really. And so the security deposit is going to be smaller. When you're doing a security deposit for a long-term rental, you're going to be looking at a full month's rent up front. So if there's any damage upon move out, we have that to play with. And I know that there's a smaller deposit, or there might be damage charged for short-term rentals, but there's no real way to uphold them to this contract, because they don't have a contract in place. Something else too is, let's take a look at really the cost of someone managing your rental. So obviously short-term rentals are a full-time job. And if you have a full-time job and you don't have time to manage the rental, then you're probably going to hire a management company. And when you're looking at the cost of short-term rental management companies, it comes out to pretty high fees. And we're looking at around 20% for the short-term rental management fee. Now, of course, they're going to do their best to make it as hands-off as possible, but you're paying a pretty penny for it. On the flip side, you're looking at an average about 7 to 9% management fee for a long-term rental, and they're doing the same thing in the sense of making this hands-off for you, or doing their best to make it so you don't have to be working constantly. And it's something that you have to factor in too. Are you going to hire a company? If so, then you're gonna have to pay a lot for it. If not, you're gonna have to spend a lot of your own time as well. Something else is, the insurance costs are higher for a short-term rental. There's a lot more liability for some of the reasons we mentioned earlier. When you're having a lot of foot traffic and having a lot of people in there, and there's a lot more furniture, so your insurance is going to be a little bit more expensive. Whereas long-term rental, we require renters to have their own renter's insurance, as well as your homeowner's policy. So it's not as big of an insurance bill, because you're not fronting all of the liability. When you have a short-term rental, they're not coming in with an insurance policy for your home, right? You're providing that policy. So it costs more. Something else is, your income taxes are higher for active ordinary income, which short-term rental income is considered active ordinary income, versus on a long-term rental, it's considered passive income. So your taxes are going to be taxed differently. And last is, and a big point I want to make here is, local city and state regulations are starting to reduce the amount of short-term rentals altogether. It's making more and more difficult to get either a license for a short-term rental, or even have a short-term rental in general. I know that there's a lot of condo complexes that are even issuing, as a part of their CC&Rs, you can't have a rental any less than X amount of days. Maybe that's 3 months, maybe that's 1 month. So it kind of eliminates the option for short-term rentals. And then there's citywide regulations that are doing the same thing. And I'll kind of take a look at an example here. One of those regulations is actually San Diego. It's very difficult to enter into the short-term rental business. There's a certain amount that they actually allow, and you have to apply and get a license for it. And I know that there's a lot of other areas in Southern California that have similar regulations, but that's something you have to look for when you're looking at, where am I going to buy my investment? Can I even do a short-term rental? Is it even possible? How much is it going to cost me, and how much time is it going to take to turn this into a short-term rental and get the permits, the license for it?
I think I just wanted to interject because I think that number 12 is such a crucial point in learning whether or not you can build a scalable portfolio. Because you might be able to purchase one property with short-term rental, but if you don't have the certainty of knowing that second, third, and fourth, when you're investing in a specific market, you're going to be able to continue to do that moving forward, I think that really jeopardizes that ability to scale your portfolio. So I know that was a big long list. I don't think they were put in any particular order, and number 12 could be number 1 for me, and they're all really good points to consider. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and something that we really want to bring up here. And enough talking about the pros and cons. Let's just take a look at an example. Let's just break down the numbers. So here's a property in Newport Beach. It's a duplex, and this here is actually permitted for a short-term rental. However, we have other properties nearby that are long-term rentals, and I know that maybe someone who's looking at purchasing this property was thinking, as an investment, is this a good idea for short-term or long-term? And what we did is we actually went ahead and did some market research and just broke down the numbers to see what would this look like as a short-term versus a long-term rental. So this duplex is comprised of 2 units. One's going to be a 4-bed, 4-bath unit. One's going to be a 2-bed, 2-bath unit. And each of them has a single car garage in the back plus a carport space, and it's about 1 house away from the beach. So in hindsight, it actually sounds like a really good opportunity for a short-term rental. So when we take a look at the short-term rental breakdown, after running comps, we found that the 4-bed, 4-bath unit can rent for about $19,000 a month, and the 2-bed, 2-bath unit for about $5,000 a month, and that's based on other short terms nearby. So we're looking at a total income of around $24,000 a month for that monthly rental amount. And then you have to factor on top of that is the management fee. So when you're having someone manage it, it's about 20%. That's where we get that $4,800 management fee. Something that I want to go over, and it's really important, is let's take a look at the occupancy rate. If we're looking at $24,000 a month in income, what is our actual income? How many days is it actually rented for? And I'm actually going to fast forward to a slide here. So this is from AirDNA data. This is basically taken straight from the Airbnb website. What is the occupancy rate for Newport Beach? And we see here that it's actually 51%. So on average, your home will be rented about 51% of the time. And so if we're looking here, 51% means that your actual monthly rental income is about $12,240. So almost half of what you were expecting or anticipating. And obviously your management fee might be a little bit less than $4,800 too, but that's just something that we want to take a look at here because that's half of what you're anticipating. On top of that too is, let's take a look at the maintenance expense, right? So 15% of the actual rent maintenance expense is going to include maintenance for furnitures and supplying and restocking. You have to, obviously, when you have a short term, you have to restock things like soap. It's restock things like towels and make sure everything is good and ready for someone. And you got to obviously have maintenance in between. There's going to be a cleaning service fee. So we're looking here at about 15% monthly. And so that's where we get that number for maintenance. On top of that is you're going to be paying for utilities. And we're conservative here, but just taking an average, I would say the utilities are going to be around $300 plus a month for this property, but we're going to call it $300. And then you obviously have a service fee for Airbnb or what other website you are choosing to use. And Airbnb is going to be 3%. So you have to factor in, a service fee just to utilize and post on the websites. So when you look at the total projected profit, when you're looking at, I'm looking at $24,000 a month in rent, but after you break down the numbers and the occupancy and the maintenance and the management, and any other expenses, your actual rental income is about $7,288 a month. Feel free to take a picture of this, look at it. I would encourage you, if you get a chance, to look at some of the websites here or do even your own market research. This is a good way to just take a look at what this looks like. So now let's see the flip side. Let's take a look at if we were to use this property as a long-term rental, what would that look like? Now, the rental amount is obviously going to be lower per month if you're looking at the total amount possible, but we're going to just break this down. So if you look at the rent for the 4.4, comps are showing it about $8,500 a month, and the 2 unit is about $5,500 a month, and that's after running rental reports. And if you guys want, if you want to see some of the reports, I actually have all of the data. Feel free to message me and I can send you every single one of the comps that we ran for short-term and long-term. I would love to do so on a follow-up. But your total is about 14,000, which is about 10,000 less than the short-term. But your expenses are where it kind of plays in it really, you have to take that into account. So management fee, as I mentioned, is about usually 7 to 9%. So ours is 8%. So your management fee is about $1,100 a month. And then your occupancy rate. This is where it really, really makes a difference. How consistent of income are you going to have? And if we take a look here, so Matthews Real Estate Investment, they provide service data about every quarter of the occupancy rate in Orange County, and specifically a multifamily, since this is a multifamily unit, and they're seeing a vacancy rate of about 4.3%. Now, that being said, we're not gonna use that as our number. We're actually gonna be more conservative, and we're using about a 7% vacancy rate, but this just gives you an idea. A lot of tenants stay for a long time, and there's not a lot of vacant units, right? So if we take an average of about a 7% vacancy rate, then you're at 93% occupancy rate. So your actual rental income is $13,000 a month. And when you say, what does that mean, occupancy rate, vacancy rate? So if we were to rent out a unit, it usually takes about 30 days to rent it out, right? And if you take that 30 days and let's say every 2 years or every 3 years, you have to re-rent the property, and it might take 1 to 2 months, maybe there's a turnover, and then you have to re-rent it. And we're just gonna take that vacancy and average it out for the amount of time that the property is actually occupied. And that's where we get that 93%. So you can break it down on a day basis. And next is I want to talk about the fees associated. So there's obviously no leasing fee on short-term rentals, and there is a leasing fee on long-term rentals. So when you lease a property, you want to have professional, high-resolution photos and post them on all the biggest marketing platforms and have a realtor lease your home out. And that's going to cost about 50% of 1 month's rent. And the average tenant stays about 3 to 5 years, but conservatively at 3 years, you can average that 50% of 1 month's rent to about $195 per month, right? So that's a fee that we can factor in. Next is there's a lease renewal fee. So for the 2 years that the tenant is not moving out and you don't need to lease it, we're gonna renew the lease. And when you renew it, this is a time where you're gonna increase the rent, right? You're going to do a full home inspection on the inside, check for any deferred maintenance, any lease violations, and really just get an idea of the condition of the home. And then you actually have the tenant sign another lease agreement for 12 more months. And that's going to be a 15% fee, at least here at Marshall Reddick. Every company is going to vary. And so if you look at that about every 2 of 3 years, you can average that out to about $117 per month. So these are going to be factored into our monthly expenses. And then maintenance, we just say conservatively about 8% average maintenance expense a month. That doesn't mean every single month you're going to be spending $1,120, but maybe you have 2 months of no maintenance and then a water heater goes out. So we want to take that average and be very conservative here. So if you're looking at your total projected income now on the long-term rental after our breakdown, you're actually closer to about $10,780 per month. And this is based on a lot of the market data that we have found. And like I said, I'm happy to provide you anything that we did and any research that we have too on a follow-up. I know I said a lot there. I'll kind of give you guys a second. You're welcome to take a picture here. So let's take a look at the bottom line. Why would you own a short-term rental? When does it make sense? Well, we believe that the only time it makes sense for you to own a short-term rental or a vacation home is if you visit that home multiple times a year and you want to supplement some of your expenses with rental income short-term. If you're looking to purchase a property, that's really important to factor in. Now, we're not talking about if you already have a short-term rental in a booming market and you already have furniture in there. We're taking a look at if you are going to purchase an investment property, does it make more sense to go short-term or to do long-term with that property, right? And if you are to visit the property 2 or 3 times the year, maybe it makes sense. Something else too is to keep in mind is if you had to work 5 times harder to make 5 times the amount of money, but you have 5 times the amount of expenses, does it really make sense? And we kind of saw that in some of the figures above. It's a lot more work to do short-term rentals. It's not scalable because you're giving all of your time, and you might make more income. You might have a potential for more income on a month, but at the same time, you also have way more expenses and you have more vacancy. So you have to factor all those into account for the amount of time that you're spending. And last is you can own, and talking about scalable, 3 to 4 times the amount of real estate with long-term rentals using the same amount of time you spend on short-term. How scalable is this? Chris mentioned it. If you own a short-term rental and it takes a lot of your time, can you do 2 or 3 or 4 more short-term rentals? Do you have the capacity? Or are you going to look at a long-term rental when you say, I want to own 3 to 4, 5, 6, more than 6 investment properties, and it's really hands off and you don't have to be checking it and monitoring it constantly. You have a company doing everything for you. You know exactly how much money you're getting each month. So is it scalable? I think that's a very, very big factor. Are you looking to just do one property, or are you looking to scale your investments? That also really comes into play when you're looking at, is this for me? And I guess just the bottom line is it doesn't work as an investment. If you want to live in it, it makes sense, but if you want it just as an investment, it doesn't work. So what are the qualities to look for in a property manager? These are really important to note. First is how good is this company's website? How good is their software? How good is their database, right? I know for Marshall Reddick, we use Appfolio, which is one of the biggest management softwares out there. And you have a portal for the owners to log into. You can see all of your income and expenses on the portal. You can run different reports on different date ranges, right? You can see any documents that pertain to your property. Tenants can access this portal. They can submit a maintenance request. There's a 24-hour emergency line. It's a really good way to make it easy for you as the owner. But how good's your property manager software? Second is there a conflict of interest with maintenance? This is something I can't harp on enough, because you'll often find that companies that do their own in-house maintenance, if they have their own maintenance team, profit about 33% of their total profit on maintenance. Maybe they lower their management fee, or they have a flat management fee, or they lower their leasing fee, and it seems like a good deal. But 3 months in, you're sitting here like, wow, my rental income seems to be cut in half every month by all of these maintenance requests. What are they for? Look out for that. There shouldn't be a conflict of interest. At Marshall Reddick, we outsource all of our maintenance to our large list of third-party vendors. All of these vendors are licensed, bond, insured with Marshall Reddick, and anything that's over 400, we actually send multiple bids to our owners. And it doesn't matter to us which one you use. You even see the contractor's name on the letterhead of the estimate. So look out for a conflict of interest with maintenance. Next is what's important to you, right? Is it the cost of the service, or is it the quality of service you get? Every company is going to have 3 basic fees: a management fee, a leasing fee, and a renewal fee. There might be other fees outside of it. Those are our only 3 fees. But is it a fee that's really low and you appreciate the fee, you might not get the best service with it? Or do you want someone to take good care of your home so your investment can be a long-term investment that makes you money? That's something to factor in. How responsive is the company? Do they have a policy of 24-hour response times? Or are they really hard to get a hold of? You have to call multiple times and send multiple emails and you never hear back. Is my home rented? Is the maintenance request taken care of? I don't know what's going on. How responsive are they? Take a look at the company's online reviews. Feel free to look up Marshall Reddick Real Estate Property Management in absolutely any market that we operate in. Read our reviews, see our responses to reviews. Tenants might leave negative reviews, but how do you respond to it? There's always going to be a tenant upset for some reason, but does the company just shy away from it? Do they leave it, or do they try to resolve it? That's super important. Do they care about the tenants, right? And then what's the cancellation policy? Do you have a company that's going to lock you into a contract for the next 3 years? Is it really difficult to cancel? Is it expensive to cancel? For Marshall Reddick, it's a 1-year term, and then it just goes on a month-to-month after that. Take a look at the cancellation policy. I know I said a ton there. If you guys had any questions, feel free to type them out in the chat. And if we can't get to them now, we will on a follow-up. But once again, I really do appreciate your time. And I kind of want to bring Chris back in to talk about next steps.
Cameron, thank you for an incredible job and thorough explanation of everything that goes into property management, long-term versus short-term, super educational and informative, which is essentially why Marshall Reddick was envisioned and created in the first place, was to be an educational resource for our clients and helping them build out their portfolio, which is my job and role as an advisor here at Marshall Reddick, is to create that sustainable pathway for you to build out your portfolio, especially if you're considering long-term rentals. So the properties that we manage include single-family homes, duplexes, condos, townhomes, multifamily dwellings, and apartment buildings of up to 20 units. We can manage them whether they're unoccupied, brand new construction, and you need tenant placement, or if they're occupied, we just need documentation such as lease agreements, rent rolls, security deposits, things like that. But we can essentially, if you're thinking about switching from your current property manager, we can help you with that. And Cameron's an excellent resource when it comes to dealing with prior property managers that maybe are not so communicative and helping our clients come to Marshall Reddick. I did mention my job as an advisor, but essentially it's to consult you on your journey to build out your real estate portfolio. It's tailored around your criteria and your goals, which are unique to your situation. As an advisor at Marshall Reddick, a big part of my job is just to help you answer that question of where do I begin? Where do I start with real estate investing? I accomplish this through free consultation calls with anyone that's interested in learning more about our real estate services, or property management, or a mortgage fund, financing, which markets they want to invest in. Everyone's got different goals based on where they are in life and their journey with real estate. And my role here is to just peel back the layers of that onion and help you develop a game plan tailored to your criteria and specific needs. I really do highly recommend everyone jumping on our website after the webinar is concluded here and looking at some of the properties that we have available, why we've uploaded them to our website, and how we've identified them as great investment opportunities for our clients at different stages in their life. When you have a chance, go jump on our website and start taking a look. Pretty quick, you're going to notice that each property has an assigned property class from luxury to D class. Now, what's important to understand here is that each property class has different benefits. Luxury and A class are much more appreciation plays, and they're going to be a little bit higher priced, while in relation to whatever that metropolitan area price point is. And C and D class are going to benefit more from cash flow. B class, maybe even a little A class, are going to offer a bit of both, a little bit of appreciation and a little cash flow. Ultimately, a big question you're going to need to ask yourself when investing is, are you looking for cash flow, or are you looking for appreciation, or maybe a bit of both? A lot of factors are personal to you, which is going to affect that decision. Your retirement date, your risk tolerance, the amount of capital that you have, all those are your criteria, okay? How much can you afford, and how is that going to place you into a specific property class? Even your experience in real estate is going to dictate whether or not C class or A class makes more sense. A C class property might need more work. It might need more vacancy, okay? That's going to maybe get you that cash flow, but maybe you don't want to deal with heavy maintenance or a lot of variable expenses. Depending on the answer to the question of what you're looking for, my job is to guide you in the direction of the right property class that fits your criteria. It's important to also know that the classes are defined by the median home sales price for the metropolitan area that it's located in. Each metropolitan area, or MSA, has its own median home price. Okay, Orange County, that number is $1.1 million. But in San Antonio, another market that we operate in, that number is $336,000, vastly different. Okay, the property classes are simply a percentage of the MSA median price point. 100% of the MSA for a single family home in Orange County might be $1.1 million. That's going to be that class A, A minus, B plus. 50% of the MSA price is a class D. Okay, so I want you to imagine, what does a 100%, a $1.1 million home in Orange County look like, right? Versus a property that's 50% of that MSA, a $500,000 home. Well, that $1.1 million home might be in a better school district, right? It might be in a booming neighborhood, close to transportation, close to job centers in a low crime area. Well, that $500,000 home is going to be surrounded by potentially lower income multifamily housing in a higher crime or school district. Okay, it might need more work, more maintenance. Each property has different associated expenses drawn from our decades of property management. I don't know if we actually mentioned, but we currently manage in our portfolio 2,600 properties across the 5 states. So we have the data available to us that associate what the expenses are for each particular property. Example, Class A properties are more likely to be in a better school district. I mentioned a lower crime area and potentially could attract families. The families with young kids that, they dislike moving. When you have young children, you don't want to move every year. They're likely to stay in that property for a few years to finish out the school district, which is going to reduce your vacancy. In addition, maybe that family's owned real estate in the past, or they have dreams of owning a property in the future. Okay, is going to lower your maintenance. They're going to treat that property a little bit better. Class C and D might be in that higher crime or school district, attracting blue collar employees who might be roommates. Roommates tend to move more frequently, which adds to your vacancy. And because it might be in a lower income area, maybe it takes more time to find qualified tenants, also increasing your vacancy and turnover costs. Each percentage is gathered from our experience in the field, managing thousands of properties in each of these classes. It's what's really important to know that no matter what decision you make, you should really understand your goals and your criteria before determining which property class you want to purchase. And essentially, that's my role, is to sit down with you and understand those goals that you have in mind. Like I mentioned, Class A, 8%, Class B, 10%, Class C, 13% on 1 to 4 units. This is derived from the data of our management and experience, both as individual investors and as property managers. Cameron hit upon this a little bit earlier. The way we calculate variable expenses for vacancy is just broken down over the period of a year. 8% is going to reflect 29.2 days, 10% a little bit higher, maybe 35 days, 40 days, 13% a little bit longer. And that's a variable expense. It's not something that you're going to incur every month. It's just an occurrence that will happen over the lifetime of you holding onto the property. All this information you can download online, or if you'd like to reach out to us directly, we can send you a free property rating ebook that outlines this criteria for our property classification in a lot greater detail, and we'd be happy to send it over your way, or you can jump on our website right after this, look at some properties, check out the property rating ebook. Cameron mentioned the importance of reviews. I think this is super essential in today's day and age. Whenever I'm about to go to a restaurant, I look up Yelp, I look up Google. I don't want to waste my hard-earned dollars jumping into a restaurant that I'm not sure if it's going to be good. So I want to look at what other people are saying about it. You should do the same thing with the real estate brokerage and investment firm that you're going to work with. Each of our markets that we operate in have 4-star reviews. or higher. Maybe don't trust the companies that have 1 star. Maybe don't trust the companies that have only 5-star. Tenants will eventually say something bad, but as Cameron mentioned, it's important to see how that firm responds. How is that firm that you're working with communicating with the tenants? Are they fair? Are they equitable? And are they responsive? Also, transparency is so essential in this day and age. You can jump on our website and learn more about our fees and services for investing in our fund or our property management or how our real estate transactions work. But I'm going to leave it at this, which is scheduling a complimentary consultation either with myself to help scale your portfolio, to identify what markets you want to be in, or if you're interested in property management, reach out to Cameron. Cameron is just such an incredible resource for understanding how management can help enhance your property. And like I mentioned earlier, squeeze out every last dollar, because ultimately as an investor, that is your goal, right? You put all this capital into a property, you need to make sure that you have a team on your side that's a liability screen between you and the tenant, but also efficiently operating that asset so that you can hold on to it a long time without being involved in the day-to-day. That's the most important thing. So we thank you guys so much, and reach out to us via the chat. We'll stick around for any questions you may have a little bit later. Cameron, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, really appreciate it. And after you guys leave here, there'll be a very brief survey. It'll just ask you a couple quick questions. If you guys can take a second here and just fill that out, that would be super helpful for us. And we look forward to connecting with you. Thank you, guys.